Welcome to a World of Warship Blitz video, and it is the much awaited British battleships, the first look. So I have the tier 5 and the tier 3 from the Blitz pass, and I have the tier 4, 6, 7 and 8 that have come through on the press account. So I'm going to be reviewing the tier 6 and the tier 6 only for today, and that is the Queen Elizabeth. And the reason that I am going to review a stats review of the tier 6 and a game is because the tier 6, the Queen Elizabeth, is the same class as the Warspite. So let's go and have a look. So I believe the Warspite, if we look at the details, let's hope that I'm not wrong. Well, it doesn't say that it's a Warspite class. However, if you have a look at the ships, they look pretty similar. So anyway, some slight differences there. Let's start the review. Now, actually, before I start the review, there you go, keeping you waiting. The reason I'm doing this is because the Warspite, if this is similar to the Warspite, it's a fairly good clue as to how the British battleships will run. So the Dreadnought and the Bellerophon are very, very similar. So the Warspite is a good example of a premium British battleship. So if the Queen Elizabeth is much like the Warspite, then yeah, that's a good sign of things to come. So built in 1915, 32,000 tons, and as you can see with the Warspite there with the class, it says Queen Elizabeth class. So there you go, I found it. Right, they are the same class. Let's run with survivability and maneuverability. We'll do the whole lot because it's going to be really, really, really easy. And that is the Warspite has slightly more hit points, about 900 more hit points or 850. The other protection and resistance and damage reduction values are all the same. The maximum speed is the same at 23.34 knots. I've kitted these out to be the same, and I've kitted out the same as my Warspite on my main account, because if I play this and it feels like the Warspite, that's a pretty good sign. Right, however, time to full speed, 22.46 seconds, maximum traverse speed 5 degrees per second, and turn time, that's time to get the rudder across, is 11.28 seconds. The turn time for the Warspite, the turn time is 8.88 seconds rather than 11 seconds, and the maximum traverse speed is 6.4 degrees per second rather than 5 degrees per second, but the time to full speed. So from a speed perspective, they're the same. The Warspite is significantly more agile. Right, Queen Elizabeth, let's go find the Queen Elizabeth. Guns, let's just go with main guns to start with. So 381mm L42s, Mark 1s, 4x2. Reload time 20.37 seconds, and the range, now I've elited both ships, and the Warspite will have a slightly greater range, probably because it has the plus 4%, whereas the elite for this ship is actually, I've gone for damage reduction. We'll talk about elite shortly. So the range, 12.75 kilometers and 20.37 second reload time. Slightly faster reload time, a slightly shorter range. So 13.22 kilometers rather than 12.75, so about half a kilometer difference. The next item is gun damage. So the Queen Elizabeth, sorry, there's people running around the house. The Queen Elizabeth has slightly higher HE damage at 1196 versus 1150, but the fire chance is also higher at 13% rather than 11% for the Warspite. So that 11% at the Warspite makes this very, very playable as an HE gun platform, because basically it's very good at dealing to destroyers, and a reasonable fire chance means that you get fires every now and again. The damage potential, though, the AP damage potential for the Queen Elizabeth is slightly lower at 1564 versus 1610, which is about a 50 point. So basically, the Queen Elizabeth has 50 points more damage on HE with a slightly higher fire chance, and a 50-point reduction in damage per AP round. Citadel is 200 damage rate to 50%, and traverse. Now turret traverse on the Warspite is 5.4 degrees per second, and on the Queen Elizabeth is 5.78, so it's slightly faster on the 5.78, but nowhere near made up for that turn time. I think the turn time is probably a degree difference there. Right, secondary guns, in fact I could go and look it up. So the traverse speed 5 degrees per second versus 6.4, so definitely the increased traverse on the turret does not make up for the loss of agility. Secondary guns, you'll notice the one big difference between the Queen Elizabeth and the Warspite is a lack of automatic secondary guns. So secondary guns on the Queen Elizabeth, there are 10 times 2 rather than 8 times 1. So there's a lot more. And I think they're in those little turrets that you can see along the side, those little sort of bulges, whatever they are. Anyway, secondary turrets, that's what they are. So 113mm L45, 10 times 2, so 6.5 second reload and 5.4 kilometre range, which is going to look pretty similar to the Warspite, apart from the fact they've got 6-inch guns, 8 times 1 of them, less of them, more powerful, 8-second reload and 5.4 kilometre range. The damage on the Warspite guns is 518 with and they are AP. Whereas on the Queen Elizabeth you get more of them, they fire faster, they do less damage, so instead of 518 they do 265, so probably about half the damage, 2% fire chance. Not 10 times 2 is 20, where the 8 times 1 is 8. So essentially you've got a lot more firing a bit faster, doing less damage and having a fire chance, but no automatic secondaries like you do on the Warspite. Which sort of brings their number up. Although they're short range, I always joke that auto secondaries are proximity alert guns rather than actual guns for doing damage. Okay, well, they can set fires, right. Very unlikely to set fires, but they can do so. Anti-aircraft. The Queen Elizabeth is a much better anti-aircraft ship than the Warspite. 184 points of large caliber AA for 3.6 kilometre range, 114 at 1.5, and if we go look at the Warspite, shorter range, much less AA caliber, 74, same range. The small caliber A doesn't seem that difference, but certainly it's the 74 versus 180, significant difference, especially at tier 6. And as for the surface detection, it's just really to fill in those for the number buffs, is 10.44 kilometres for the Queen Elizabeth versus 10.8 for the Warspite, although to be fair, there's nothing in that at all because your general visibility range is the range of your guns because you're a battleship and you'll spend most of your time shooting. Right, Queen Elizabeth, the gets interesting splotchy camouflage. So what does the camouflage do? Plus 4% hit points, 4% main battery firing range, the shell dispersion to minus 4%, which is very nice, and torpedo damage reduction, yeah, right. It is exactly the same as the Warspite camo, however, the Warspite camo has a slightly more interesting and angular look to it, whereas this looks like well, a bit splodgy really. Well, it's all down to aesthetics, isn't it? What else have we got to look at? Let's go have a look at a couple more things before we run into battle. So the elite bonus for the Warspite, you get, I think, the battleship modernisation with a whole lot of stuff, or a 4% increase in range. Here you get a main battery reload time of minus 3%, which explains the reload difference between the two ships, and the main battery traverse speed of plus 7%, which explains the turret traverse speed between the two different ships. So essentially, I think the guns are more similar than the review made out. The final thing to look at, if we can find it, is does it have missions? Yes, it does, and it's got more of them. Not quite as lucrative as perhaps the Warspite, which actually the Warspite I don't think has any missions at all. So basically play 15 battles, you get 4,000 XP. Win 15 battles, you get another 4,000 XP. So by then you should be pretty close to the tier 7, I would have thought. Set a fire 80 times, so that's not going to take too long. And destroy 15 enemy battleships, so that could take a little bit longer. Okay, right, well that is the Queen Elizabeth. I am going to take my life in my hands and say, what could go wrong? Now the other big difference between the Warspite and the Queen Elizabeth, and it's really important to mention that, look at this time of night, we might be waiting here for a while, guys. The other big difference between the two, nice and quick, good on it, is that the Warspite can take premium commanders without bonding them to the ship. So the Warspite, I can put my David Beatty in and then move him off to another ship. So the Warspite can borrow commanders, whereas this ship cannot. However, this ship moves you on to the tier 7, the Duke of York, which will be another review coming very shortly. So here we are, we're in battle, we're in the big race, which is sort of okay. I'm going to get my guns out to the left so that we can head towards the B cap and then move towards the A cap. I much prefer to go and try and protect 2 caps that are smaller and closer together than one rather large cap off by itself. You can capture Area C, matey, that's your problem, and you're in New Mexico, the game will be over by the time you get there. I just need to make sure that we actually have some friends coming in here because I don't want to take all the heat. I've got a New York, a Furitaka. Okay. Now I'm sure once these guys spot me, they will want to torpedo me. Or not. Okay then. The Smutski is taking it easy, slow and easy, good to see. Our New Mexico is going to be facing off against that Congo. Okay, now we have a problem. So we cut the power, turn in, because that little nasty torpedo boat is definitely fine. We bring our speed up, let's turn ourselves in, we'll take one of those. Okay, and we have a bit of a problem because we have gone and overextended, but that's pretty standard, so I know how to get out of this. Okay. Oh, hello. He's motionless, which is no good. He's going to try and get away. That's it. Come on, try and get away. Oh, that's going to hurt. Let's try and get the hell out of here. Right. We'll get in amongst some mates, lick our wounds, and basically do some long-range sniping. Which is when I screw up, how I sort of deal with. That's the Mutski, which I was definitely trying to deal with. He's going in reverse. Oh, there's a Fubuki out there as well. Oh, look at that. Where are those torpedoes? That's a Fubuki torpedoes, 3 sets. I don't think I'm going to land any shots on that. I'm definitely going to outrun that. Those are long range. Oh, that's a Britannia. Good luck on that. Right, we may survive this battle, although we need to, that Britannia, he's going to try and get through to our carrier. It definitely is a bit more sluggish in the turn, takes damage like the Warspite, but definitely sluggish there. We've got some fires lit. Is he going to be overshooting to my front? Oh, ouch. We're both pretty squashy. We're getting some mates helping out there. Lifted nicely over it. Okay, something's... Yeah, that's nice. We're going to be bashing each other out. I'll slow down. He's gone. That's a Congo. Yeah, that Congo's nasty. We lost our carrier. In fact, that Congo's sort of a waste of energy to go into that Congo. When I've got a nice juicy destroyer out here. Way more sluggish, way more sluggish. Yeah, we'll just keep him. Okay. I'm probably going to get torpedoed by this boat, but he's gonna regret it. We'll make them suffer. So, what's the verdict? Well, reasonably good grouping on the main guns. Quite soft on the armour, but then again, it feels very much like the Warspite. A lot slower to haul around in the turn, and probably that's the main defining feature. I would probably say that's the difference between this and the Warspite. The Warspite does have that longer range, but I don't think you'll really notice it that much. It's nice having that extra fire chance, but yeah, a very workable ship, and yeah, very in flavour with what we've seen with the Warspite. But yeah, just be aware that lack of agility, that's probably the most noticeable feature or difference between this and the Warspite, and the lack of that premium commander. Oh well, we've got struggle medal. That would have been the was that the Fubuki or the Mitsuki at the end. Okay, 41,000 damage. Fire and HE mostly. Let's see what our cause of damage was. 4,000 from fires. It's quite a good little fire starter, and if I'd got a reasonable beat on those destroyers, probably would have made the game a little bit easier. Reasonably good rate of shooting down aircraft there at 6 gone. Secondary battery hits. Yeah, well, the Warspite with its automatics can do quite a lot of secondary battery hits, but not really a lot of damage. 5 fires, 442. 42 main battery hits, so if you multiply that by 2.5, that's about 12 fires. So that's on par with percentage. So yeah, so there you go. The Queen Elizabeth Tier 6 British line tech tree battleship in battle, compared with the Warspite by a bit of a Warspite captain here. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Wrong button. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.